Hi Andy, this is Shiraz from Debate, as you probably remember from the summit. I'm really glad I got a chance to review your final presentation in real time, and I would like to note a few of my remarks regarding your presentation to make it even better in terms of your non-verbal aspects. So I'm only going to address your body language and not the content, which is actually pretty much established and you've already worked on it with Gur. So let me focus first of all on the first element that has to do with body language, which is your positioning on stage and your movement across the room. During your presentation, it was very evident that you feel very comfortable behind the podium and as close as you can to the wall and to the presentation, and that shouldn't be the case. You have wonderful things to say, you seem very knowledgeable, and you should detach yourself from the podium, from the wall, take a few steps forward and to your left, and take a more central positioning on stage. Once you hide behind the podium, once you stand so close to the wall and there's something that's actually an obstacle between you and your audience, it sends out a signal, possibly of insecurity. It doesn't help raising levels of attention because it's very hard to keep track on you when you're just situated in one location. And of course, it doesn't help to establish your status as a powerful presenter, as a powerful speaker, and as a messenger that owns the stage and has all the knowledge that can share it with his audience. And the whole point of your presentation is discussing elevations, and you encourage your audience to be proactive. You actually tell them, let's all be proactive in elevations, but you say so standing behind the podium, leaning on it, with your hand in your pocket. So there's no sync between the verbal, which is very important, and the nonverbal. So you have to detach yourself, take a more central place, and try to avoid leaning on things, putting your hands in the pocket, and actually try to exude more confidence and more control over the space. You can try moving across the stage with a few steps just to change locations and look more dynamic, because as we said, your subject has to do a lot with being interactive with your managers, paying attention to the field, elevating when necessary. So you have to actually put that into play and get into those shoes yourselves. As I mentioned during the summit, you have to get into the situation, the mindset you want your audience to be in. And if you want them to be proactive, if you want them to take charge, to be motivated, you have to do so and mirror it yourself. You have to reflect it with your body language. And what you're doing right now is being planted in one stage, hands in your pocket, doesn't give out that same message. So I encourage you to do so. Second crucial element with proper use of body language when giving a presentation and in different situations when you have a target audience is proper use of eye contact. In your situation, I think specifically because you're situated in one location, you don't distribute eye contact equally to the entire room. And so different segments in the room feel neglected, and it's harder to motivate them, to get them to be proactive, and to get them to move into your direction of your choice. So in this case, as I mentioned during the summit, just divide the room into 3 different segments and make sure you give a random glimpse to a random person in each one of those 3/3. And I think in this case, as long as you just detach yourself from the podium, try to be more centralized, it will help you even technically to distribute eye contact for all segments of the audience. But it's very important to do so, to make them feel included, to raise the levels of energy in the room, and send a more dynamic message to your audience as a messenger. Andy, what really stood out, and is actually the most important element in your body language use in your presentation, is your tone of voice. You sound very monotonous. You don't play with the different elements of your tone of voice, which I will elaborate on soon. And it comes across like you're very indifferent toward the subject, like you lack confidence, and you lack energy. And all of these 3 conclusions don't do you justice. And of course, we have to change them in order to get a different perception for the audience and to make your presentation a lot more effective and elevate your messenger status as a presenter and as the owner of this particular subject. So what can we do? If we zoom in on tonality, on proper use of tone of voice, it's comprised of 4 elements. First of all, volume. Volume is all about the gap between intimacy and inspiration. It has to do with the physiological sense. When we play with our volume, it actually concerns our hearing sense, and it helps elevate or decrease the levels of attention. The second element has to do with the tone, the pitch, and this works on our emotion. And in this sense, you have to think about the kind of emotion you want people, your audience, to associate with your arguments. The third element has to do with the speed, and that works on the cognitive sense. Our ability to catch and actually absorb the amount of words that you say per minute. So you can also play with speed things up or lower the rate of your tone. And the last element has to do with the emphasis, which is cognitive as well. It helps us differentiate between the core content and the supporting content. And this also helps your audience in terms of signaling where they should pay extra attention, where they should be more motivated about, what they should be proactive about. And you can play and put all these elements into consideration when giving the presentation. And you sound very monotonous. Again, you say everything with the same pitch, the same height, the same speed, and you don't put any emphasis, that your audience can actually differentiate between different arguments, between questions and regular sentences. So in this case, when you ask your audience a question, you do ask them, you tell them 9 out of 10 times an issue is raised, what happens? We pick up the phone. That's how you say it. When you should say, first of all, when it's a question, when there's a question mark at the end of your sentence, you have to play it and reflect it as a question. Pause a second, let the impact sink in, possibly let your audience even answer and ask it like this. 9 out of 10 times an issue is raised. Guys, what happens? Play with your pitch, play with your tonality, play with the speed of your voice, and of course let your audience answer. So that's when you ask questions, and then you also tell them, I highlighted a sentence for you, who can tell me who read it? If you're talking about something you highlighted, it must be important on some level. You have to emphasize here, put an emphasis, strengthen your voice, heighten your pitch, anything to help signal your audience, this is different, this is important, please pay attention and let it sink in. And also when you say at the end, want to be proactive in elevations, and your voice matters, you tell them, you guys definitely have a voice. So there's a difference between saying, you guys definitely have a voice, to you guys definitely have a voice. Say it like you mean it. And the only way to say it like you mean it is play with all those different 4 elements. Good luck with that.